So you are done with extracting the data from the machine learning model, but what do you do with it? So that's what we're going to be looking at in the second part of the series on market basket analysis. We're going to be looking at how to visualize our data and make meaningful insights or bring out meaningful insights from it. So we're going to be using some of the visuals inside of Power BI, some of the inbuilt visuals of Power BI. We're going to make use of it to show our data. And we're also going to be making use of some Python visuals. So the same way you could have your Python visuals in Jupyter Notebook or VS Code, you can also create same Python visuals inside of Power BI. So that way you're just simply using Power BI as a front end for the results of your machine learning um, algorithm. So I'll go straight into it. If you did everything correctly, you should have your data here, or just like I have mine on the screen. You have your online retail, you have antecedent, support, confidence, consequence, and all of that. And remember, we split the columns into different columns just to remove the unwanted names that we have. There's a name frozen set beside each of the antecedents and support, and it was unwanted, and we decided to remove it. So we're going to have that in the data. So you're going to make use of just the columns that are necessary. And I'm just going to show you what my data looks like briefly. So as you can see, this is what my data looks like. It might take a while for your data to load. So you can see that in antecedent one, I have just frozen sets and it's a redundant column actually. So you can actually drop this column if you don't need it. I just left it there because I wanted to get straight into the analysis, but you can delete it so that it doesn't take as much space. If you notice, it is here also frozen sets. There's an empty column here as well. Beside that, I think what with the data I have is in my uh, consequence 2.2. That's where I have my data just right here, consequence 2.2. Yeah. So it has that name because I was splitting the column by delimiter. If you remember, we removed the unwanted part of the data. So you just need to drop those parts that you don't need. So apparently we can drop 3 columns from this data set in order to give us more space. You can just head to your Power Query and do all of that. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to go straight into my analysis. So I'm going to go to my visualization back and go ahead to create some visuals. Yeah, so the first thing I'm going to do is to do um, a very simple stacked column chart that is very common. I mean, if you've used Power BI, you probably have used this a couple of times. The stack column charts would be used to just display the data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show consequence by antecedent, right? The number of consequence that each antecedent have. Yeah, so and I'm going to display the top 10 or top 20. So in an organization, right, you have a set of items that are like the top 10 which customers purchase all the time, and then as a result of that they have more things being purchased with them. Those are the consequence. If you remember our definition of consequence and antecedent, so I'm going to bring out the antecedents with the most number of consequence and arrange them. I'm going to choose the top 10. So if you are in an organization, you probably want to recommend to your marketing team to focus on these top 10 items because they are going to actually lead to more sales. By the time you sell 10 of these items, definitely you have sales of other items as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is to just click on my stack column chart, which is the second chart here. If you can see, I'm just going to click on it at the left right side of the screen. So you can see stack column chart. Just click on it and then fill in the options with um, antecedents and consequence in my y and x axis, and also filter the data by top 10. So once I click on the data, once I click on the chart, it's going to give me an empty chart just like this one you can see on the screen right now. And I'll just go ahead and fill in my data. So I'll pick antecedent 2 and drag it to my x-axis here. So that is going to populate the x-axis with the data. And then I'm going to pick up and consequent 2.2 because that's where I actually have data. And I'm going to put it in my y-axis. So by the time I do that, it's going to take a while to load because we have a very large data set. And but if you have a powerful system that's much more powerful than this, then it's probably going to take lesser time to load. So you can see that the data has come in, and then you have all of these items listed. It's actually a long list. Remember, we have a lot of data there. So based on the kind of data you have in your organization, you might want to cut down to maybe the top 10, top 20, top 50, whichever. But I actually prefer the first 10 because that's like 1% of the whole thing. Remember Pareto principle, the 80-20 principle, right? And saying that number of courses will be responsible for 80% of the outcome. So I'd rather go small. In this case, I'll just pick 1%, and I know that those, at least those first 10, would actually have a great impact. Can actually start with the first 10, then increase to the first 20, depending on the kind of strategy you want to use as a data analyst, right? So I'm going to just go to the count and make sure that it is count distinct because I want to show, I want to be sure. So I'm going to change it to count distinct so that I can have a proper representation of the data. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is to ensure that you filter the data. So, and to do that, you click on this visual. After clicking on it, make sure it's highlighted. And then you come to the filters pane. You can see collapse or expand the filter pane while editing. This also determines how the report readers see it. So it's going to show you if there are any current filters on this visual. And you can see I have two filters on this visual at the moment. It's showing all my antecedents and also showing all the consequence on this visual. So I want to show only the top 10 antecedents. So I'm going to go to antecedents and expand that card using the drop down arrow. You can see the drop down arrow says expand or collapse filter card. So when you do that, it's going to show you what type of filtering is there. Currently, what is there is a basic filtering and it's showing all the fields. So I'm going to click on the arrow beside basic filtering. You can see there's a small drop down arrow right there, which I'll click on to show another type of filtering that I want to make use of, which is known as top N. Yeah, you can see there's advanced filtering, there's top N. Top N is where you can now do top 10, top 20, top 50. So I'm going to click on top N. So when I click on top N, I'll now go ahead and determine the number which I want to use. And just like I have said, for top N, I just want to do top 10. So I'm going to write top 10 in that box, the box beside the top. And note, you can also do bottom. So if you click the arrow beside top, it can change that option to the bottom 10. So if you want to see the items that are not necessarily attracting other consequence, like they are just items that are being purchased on their own, you can do that using the bottom 10. So, or bottom 100, whichever one it is. But the reason why I do 10 is, I mean, this visual is not as big, so it can't probably accommodate too many numbers, and I don't want it to be all cramped up together. So I'll leave it at top 10, and then it's going to ask me the data values that I want to use. We are doing consequence, so I'm just going to drag consequence into this field that says by value, add data field here. So you go to consequence, you click on consequence, and that's the one we used, which is highlighted. Then you drag it into, you hold it down, on it, and then drag it into the by value field. So once you do that, it's going to populate. And when so once you do that, once you've dragged consequence into the value field, for yours it might go to count automatically, then you don't need to do anything. But if it's on first consequence, just like I have here, you click on that column, you click on the drop down beside the column name, that's first consequence, then you scroll down to count distinct, and then click on count distinct, because we want to filter it by that, the distinct count of the consequence associated with each antecedent. And once you are done, you click on apply filter. So once you click on apply filter, the results you have on your screen is going to change and look like what I have currently. So I had already applied it. That's why you can see. So if you notice, it's no more jam packed like before. Now I just have the number I need, which is just 10, and then you could see that the names are now visible, unlike before when just a short part of the names were showing. Yeah. So we have that, and this visual, you can rename the title. I mean, this is not a very pretty title. You can rename the axis as well. All of those are minor things, minor fixes, and I believe we will all be able to do that. So you just click on whichever visual you want to edit, which is this one at this moment. Go to your visualization pane, and then you go to format your visual, which is this button. There's a paintbrush in front of like a bar chart, so you click on that, and once you click on that, you would have access to edit the title, edit the name of the axis, the orientation, and all of that, the data labels if you want to add data labels and all. So I'll just go ahead and change the title to something better. On that, the title is on that general anyway, so I'll just go there and highlight everything and just say top 10 antecedents, right? Or say top 10 products, whichever one. You don't necessarily need to use the antecedent and consequence languages. You can say top 10, top 10, top best 10 selling products, or best 10 selling products, or top 10 products by sales, or top 10 products by consequence, whichever. I mean, you're at liberty to use any name you want to. So I'll just leave it as top 10 products. Because remember, at the end of the day, when you do a visual, you are not necessarily doing it for yourself. Your audience must be able to understand that visual that you are building. You are building it for them and not for yourself. So it is important that they understand, right? So you've done the title. If you want to add subtitle, I mean, you are free to do as much as possible. On the axis, you can go ahead and change the names on the axis if you want. And I have the title here. So the text is auto. That's why it just picks the name. So I can just change this from auto to, let's say, consequence. Oh, sorry. Antecedents will be at the bottom on the x-axis. Antecedents or products. You can write products, yeah, and maybe you call the other one derivatives, whichever one. I mean, you you are in charge, but at the same time, you want to make sure that your audience understands. So make sure that it's a name that everyone in your organization or anyone who will be relating with your visual will be able to understand. So I just changed mine to antecedents and consequence for the purpose of this tutorial. Okay, and I believe that should settle um, the title, antecedent, consequence, all sets. So if you notice, as I'm doing it, it's changing on my visual. And I feel that my visual looks a bit better now than it was previously. So I'm going to go ahead and go and create another visual. So I've just demonstrated one of the ways you can show the data to the audience. Okay, so what am I communicating from my market basket analysis? These are the things I want to show you. So I'm going to go ahead and do some Python visuals because this is just one of the things you can do using the inbuilt visuals in Power BI. But then remember, we are doing more of Python in Power BI. So you probably know Power BI already, but you want to use more of Python in Power BI. So I'm going to show you some Python visuals. And you can also always research on your own as well to see other kinds of visuals you can do using Power BI. So depending on how large you drag your visual, you'll be able to see more on the names associated with each of those antecedents. You can see that's why I decided to use the top 10 so that I can have at least more information that is identifiable by people who use the visual. So let's do a 3D plot that shows support, confidence, and lift. We want to see the relationship between the three of them um, on an XYZ plane graph. So this might be relevant if your audience is very technically sound. They would be able to interpret and understand this kind of graph. If they don't, I wouldn't advise you to go ahead and show this kind of graph. But if they do, then you can go ahead and do this. So let me just quickly show you how that is going to go. So the first thing you want to do is we are working with a Python visual now. So we're going to go to visualizations. On your visualization pane, you can see R. So if you actually want to use R, you can use R in Power BI to create a visual, and then you can use Python. So these are the two tools that you can use to do those kind of visuals with code. So I'm going to click on Python visual. And when you click on Python visual, then it's going to appear on the screen. So you are now going to type in the script. Remember, we had already connected our Power BI earlier to a virtual environment where Python is already existing in, right? Yeah, so we are going to actually now work with that same Python version, and we're going to enable the script visual. You can see it's going to ask me to enable my visual. I'm going to just say enable. Yeah, so I'm going to be working with that same Python version using our data. So in order to work with this, what you need to also do now is to actually go ahead and select the data fields that you want to make use of. Which data fields do you want to use for your visualization? So since I said I want to make use of confidence, support, and lift, I'm going to have to click on those three in order to show them. So I'll just go to my data frame. You can see this is my data. So in order to create the data frame, I'll just click on confidence, support, and lift. So like you can just check the three boxes actually. So I'll check the box of support, lift, and confidence. So once I do that, it's going to populate that data in my Python editor, right? If you look at my screen right now at the bottom, you can see that's populated the data for me. I have my data set and it has dropped duplicates. It does all of that automatically. So it's going to say paste your script or code here, right at the bottom of everything. So under there now, I can now go ahead to put in whatever it is I want to put in, like the code and all of that. Remember, we have installed a lot of dependencies and all. So at this point, since we installed PyCaret, it might yours might not have come with it, but it's likely that it has come with Matplotlib or Matplotlib, whichever way you call it. So, but if you have not, you need to go back to your remember your your virtual environment where you have PyCaret and Python. So you just go there and then you type in pip install my matplotlib. Check out the command to do that in case yours is not installed. But if it's installed, you just go to the next step, which is to import. So we're going to import matplotlib dot plot. Yeah. So we're going to import it as PLT. So anytime we call PLT, we're actually referring to this library. That's why we're saying as PLT. And there's actually another library within Matplotlib that you can use to do 3D plots. It's called Axis 3D and it's under MPL toolkits. So I'm just going to type it, say from MPL underscore toolkits. Oh, I made an error. So let me just edit that. Is MPL toolkits. MPL underscore toolkits dot mplots 3D. So this is I'm gonna from there I'm now going to import axis 3D. Yeah. So what this is going to do is to help me import my statements. So import my library. So I'm just going to comment out that these are my import statements. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to create a 3D plot. A 3D plot. And to do that, I need to write the code as well. So I'll just scroll down and I'll just say my figure equals to dot dot figure, open and close brackets. Don't worry, I'm going to add the code for this video to GitHub and also share in the description of this video so that you can just easily go through the code. I will appreciate if you can actually read the code and type it in rather than just copying and pasting so that you can understand what goes on in the code. And if you can copy and paste first and then read through the code to actually see what I've done, that would also be a good idea as well. So you don't necessarily have to code along with me, or if you can pause the video and type, that's also fine. Whichever one makes it easier for you. So I'm going to specify a variable um ax, which is going to be like the subplot within that figure where I'm going to have my 3D projection. So I'm just going to say ax equals to fig dot add underscore subplot, and open a bracket. I'll open a bracket and close it. Yeah, then I can type in some things there. I'll just type in my 111 and say projection equals. I'll open my small my braces, just single, no, sorry, not braces, ellipsis rather. Open and close quotation marks, and I have 3D inside. And yeah, so what I want to do is I want to have a scatter plot within each of those axis. For x-axis, I want to have my lift. Maybe for my y-axis, I would like to have my lift there. For my x-axis, I would probably put support, and then for my z-axis, I'll put confidence. Remember, we are doing a 3D plot, so in the 3D plane, you have your x, y, z. It's in your two-dimensional plane that you have just x and y. When you're talking about three-dimensional plane, then you have a z-axis or your z-axis, whichever way you pronounce it. So we'll have to create a scatter plot for that. So I will just add a comment here to say, let me add a comment here that says, um, create a three a 3D plot so that you can understand what each part of the code is doing. So that part of the code is actually just creating a 3D plot, but it's just a blank 3D plot. There's nothing inside yet. So now this is where I get to specify what I want to add into the 3D plot. And I want to do a scatter plot. So let me say create a scatter plot. Yeah, so I'm going to now just type what is going to be my scatter plot, the code for my scatter plot. I'll say, remember, it's our AX. AX is the region for the scatter plot, and I'll say dot scatter, right? And then I'll specify the columns I'm making use of. So I'll say data set dot support, data set dot confidence, data set dot lift, and I'll put my marker, and there's a variable called C, so I'll do all of that. So I've written dataset dot support. I'll type in dot confidence, dataset dot lift. So C equals to R is just the color equals to red. Yeah, I'm using red color. And for the markers, I want it to be circles, so I'll just say marker equals to O. Yeah. Uh, yeah, that's actually going to create the scatter plot for me. But that's not all. I still need to set the title of the plot. Yeah, I need to also tell the plot where each each of the columns are going to be. So which of the columns is going to be my x-axis? Which one is going to be my y-axis? Which one is going to be my z-axis? I still need to specify all of that. So I think the first thing I'll do is to specify the labels. That's the x, y, and z axis. So let me just do that and say set labels for each axis. Yeah, so what labels am I going to put? So I'll say ax dot set underscore x label, and that will be support. So I can just go ahead and copy this line and paste it 2 times and change the values to the other things that I need instead of just typing again. Control C, my Control V. So it's changed to Y. And in my Y, I want to have confidence. Yeah, I mean, we should all have confidence. So I want to have confidence. Yeah, so I just put in confidence there. And lastly, I want to set my Z label. I'll change that to lift. Yeah, so I have set all my labels now. And the last thing I need to do is to actually add a title to this particular um, graph. And mind you, the order which you write the columns in the ax.scatter, where you create a scatter plot, is what determines which one belongs to which axis. So if you notice, dataset.support is first, dataset.confidence is second, and dataset.lift is the third. So it is going to take it as x, y, z in that order. So it is not the order in which you write the labels, but the order in which you write the items inside the columns inside your scatter plot code. So just take note of that. So the next thing I want to do is to set the title. And to do that, I'll just let me write a comment and say set the title of the plot. So for that, we're going to have ax dot set underscore title, and then you type in your title, whatever title you want to give it. So I will just say 3D plots of support confidence and lifts. So we are done basically. But if you run this code now, nothing is going to happen. And the reason nothing is going to happen is because you have not told this particular code to actually show you the graph. that you have created. So we need to show the plot. So let me add that line that says show the plot. Let me add that comment rather. So and the code is going to be like this: plt dot show. If you have used matplotlib before, you will know that that's very important. Yeah, and that's it. We have our first Python chart. All I now need to do after creating this, after writing this code, is to go up here just above the X sign. You can see what looks like a play button beside the settings. There's like this, the very last button. So you just click on it and that runs your code. So I'll click on it and wait for my code to run. If you notice, just at the top here, you can see it's loading and about to run the code. So give it just short time and you're going to see your graph. Yeah, so this is the result of what we have: a 3D plot of support, confidence, and lifts. And you can see each of them. You can see the concentration of the support and the lift, the values, and you'll be able to interpret that and share with your audience. And if the audience is technical, they will understand this, and they might not. If so, this kind of chat is not something that you might want to share with top level executives who don't have time to actually start interpreting uh, what this means, right? So, but this is what you're going to have at the end of the day. And another thing you can also do is to do a plot of confidence support lift as well again, but this time around as a horizontal bar chart for each of the antecedents. So you are showing for each antecedent what is the support, what is the confidence, and what is the lift. You can do it for the top 10, for the top 20, and then you know which antecedent is actually the most valuable. Which one? It's not even just about having plenty consequence, but what is the support, what is the lift, and what is the confidence? So that's actually a very valuable visual you're going to show. So that's what I'm going to show next, and I'm going to wrap up this video. I'm also going to drop suggestions on the GitHub on other kinds of visuals that you can make use of. So you can just go through that GitHub and see. You can do network diagrams and some other ones. So I'll drop the code there as well and show you how you can go about it. But for this video, for the sake of this video, when I finish the next chart, I'm going to be wrapping it up there. So we're going to put that on page 2. Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and create a new page. And on that new page, I'm going to have that new chart I was talking about. It's also going to be a Python visual as well. So that would also help you demonstrate your ability to use Python inside of Power BI. And this is a good skill that you can also showcase to your employers and to people who you are sharing your portfolio with to show them that you actually can do more than just the regular Power BI. You can go a step further by incorporating Python into it. Okay, so next I'm going to just go ahead and then click on my Python visual again, and I'm going to import data into it, and I'm also going to type code as well. So this time around I'm just going to paste the code so as not to take a longer time. I don't want the video to be too long, so I'm just going to paste the code. Remember I said I'm going to have the code. I'm going to explain what I wrote in the code, and I'm also going to share the GitHub link to the code so that you can easily just copy from there and use it. So first off, I'm going to drag the fields that I want to make use of. Remember, it is important to drag the fields. That's the only way Python can know which data you want to work with, and it's going to make it into a data frame that you can now use. So for this, I'm going to need my support, my lift, my antecedent, and consequence. Those are the things I'm going to need. So I'm going to click on those particular columns I need. My antecedent, my consequence, my lift, support, and confidence. So that those are the columns I need. So you can just go ahead and highlight it in yours as well. So currently I have antecedents, lift, support, confidence. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and just paste in the code and explain the code so that I can plot the visual. This visual is actually going to be large because it's going to contain three bar three bars for each antecedent and consequence. So I get my code, come here and paste it in. Yeah. So the code is actually not that much. So the first thing you want to do again is to import your matplot library. I'll go ahead and add my comment again and say import statements, import statements. So I have my import statements. So and then you are creating a new column for the row. So what do I want to bring out from this? I'm creating a rule. What a rule says is consequence A belongs to antecedent A. So it's essentially just joining the values together. So that's why I'm doing that for this column. If you notice, I'm linking antecedents with a particular um, sign, just your dash and then your greater than sign to form an arrow to say that this antecedent gives this consequence. So that's what is going to be in each of the columns. Remember, the antecedents are kind of like grouped together, so it's going to be a long name. So you might want to just actually maybe give it a name, A B, so that you can add that easily. And it's that can easily, I'll show you what I mean. That can easily show in your chart because you have long names. These are products have long names, so might not necessarily show all of it in the visual. So you might need to shorten the name for this particular one. So the rule is just, I'm just creating a new column called rule. And for that rule, each antecedent will be linked by an arrow to its consequence. And I'm going to do a bar plot. A bar plot. So to do that bar plot, what I need to do is to um, call the figure and say AX equals to and give the size. So you can see this is the size for the plot area, 20 by 8. So now what do I want to plot? I would say I want to plot from my data set. On the x-axis, I want the rule, and on the y-axis, I want support, confidence, and lift. But because this is going to be long, right? I mean, it's going to be a long one. I want the bar chart to not be a vertical bar chart. I want it to be horizontal. So that's why I specify kind bar H. Bar H means horizontal bar chart. And just say your AX equals to AX. Yeah. So then I'll go ahead and also specify the title. What is the title of this chart? Specify plot title, and the title is support confidence and lift bar plots. You can call it any name you like, so far it is conveying the message to the audience properly. And so for the axis, I'll say define data labels, or um let me just say specify data labels. So we're simply telling you what the y-axis are, what the y-axis is, and what the x-axis is as well. So I'm telling you what the axes are, what they represent. Specify data labels. So now we now go ahead and say show the plots or graph, whichever one you want to call it. So that's the code, and I'm just going to go ahead and run it. This space I've specified will be too small, so I might need to just increase the size of this chart. I can make it fill the whole screen actually, because it's going to be large. You can wait till it finish running to do that. You can just, I'm just going to do that ahead of the code. Yeah, so we wait for the code to actually finish running and give us our chart. Yeah, so you can see my chart is here, but if you notice the chart is a bit all jumbled up together. So one thing I can actually do is to um, filter again. Yeah, so I can show this data by, because it's going to show almost all the data. This is just a lot. So I just want to see items that have the type of the high confidence, right? Um, so what I can do in order to make this look better is to go to confidence, and go to confidence and then apply a filter and say I just want to see the top five highest, like those that have the top five highest level of confidence, right? Confidence is a good metric to judge it by. Yeah, so I'm going to do just that. So I'll go to confidence under filters and change it. Currently it's going to be basic filtering, so I'm just going to change it from basic filtering to top end, like we did in the first chart, right? And from there I'm going to put top five, and then can just go. So let me just go to top end, five. So I want to do it by confidence. I'm just going to add confidence to drag confidence down here and just add it. I'm not using the sum, just use counts. And apply filter. And once I do that, I should have a change on my visual. So if you notice now, I just have items with high confidence, right, on my on my um on my chart, and it's a better representation. So this is something that is more presentable and something that you can actually see and understand. So you have different items, their various supports, their confidence, and their lifts. So you can always show this to actually show, okay, these are the items, this is the lifts that they have. What does that tell us? The support that they have, what does that tell us? And the confidence. So on that note, I'll be closing this video. Please do well to subscribe and drop a comment. You can ask questions. You can also follow me on LinkedIn. If you send me if you send me a connection request, I would try as much as possible to accept as soon as I can. And you can ask me questions. I would answer your questions as much as possible. I'll try to answer them as much as possible. And I would see if I can also do other videos um, that relate to this. But I think we are done with market basket analysis, and then I'll see how we can use recommendation systems for other things aside market basket analysis. Thank you for staying with me from the beginning of the course till now. Do well to subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Thank you. Bye.